If you were watching the Oscars last night, you may have seen Will Smith slap Chris Rock. I'm Linnea from the Pearl PR team, and today we're going to break down this whole situation. I'm going to give my advice, as well as give you guys some learning opportunities. So, what happened last night? So, during the Oscars, Chris Rock, who is the host of the Oscars for this year, was doing some roasts and jokes. As one of those jokes, Chris Rock made a joke about Jada Smith being the next G.I. Jane. For those of you who are unaware, G.I. Jane is the character that Demi Moore played, and Demi Moore in that movie is bald. She shaved her head for the movie. Jada Smith has been suffering from hair loss due to a medical condition, which I will link down in the description so you can check out the full details about the medical condition so that you can know exactly what it is. I'm not a medical professional, so I'm not going to touch that. So if you want to know the condition that Jada Smith is going through, check the link down in the description. But anyway, so Chris Rock makes the joke. At first, people kind of laugh it off, and then Will Smith decides to go on stage and slap Chris Rock across the face. He then goes back to his seat. Chris Rock kind of tries to brush it off, and Will Smith yells to basically just to put it lightly, he yells, keep my wife's name out of your mouth. And so Will Smith is pissed. Chris Rock is put in an awkward situation, and there are a bunch of memes that are coming out of this situation. On top of that, Will Smith actually went ahead and won the Best Actor award for the Oscars. He won the Best Actor award. In that, he apologized for his outburst and then went back to his seat. So we have a lot to break down. Number one, everyone is divided. People don't know whether they agree with Chris Rock or agree with Will Smith. Some people say that Chris Rock deserved it. Others say that Will Smith should never have assaulted Chris Rock on television. So, what would I say as a public relations specialist? First of all, I would look at the personal reputation of both Chris Rock and Will Smith. And I would probably advise them to make public apologies, both of them. Because even if people think that Chris Rock is right or Will Smith is right, they both did something that is very extreme and can affect both of their careers. So I would immediately say, go make a public apology. You need to apologize for your actions. And even though Will Smith already apologized, I would recommend that he do it again in a much more calm environment, either through a written message or through a video. Most likely, the best way to do it would be through like a written apology, but a video would also work depending on how it is filmed. Apology videos are very, very, they really need to be filmed in a genuine manner. Otherwise, they may be perceived as scripted or for PR. Whereas even if it is for a PR reason, you don't want it to come off as disingenuous. But I would still advise both of them to apologize for their actions, because in the long run, this is going to have some effects down the line for both of them. which is why I would advise the apology. The other thing that I would do is I would kind of assess the situation. I would assess the public reaction. I would look at both of their brands, and I would say that, and I would also look at where there could be a potential crisis. For Will Smith, he has a reputation of being this good guy who is generally put together. So obviously slapping someone across the face on television and then cursing them out isn't exactly a good image, even if his intentions were in the right. So I would immediately say, you definitely need to apologize, and I would look to see where we can kind of fix everything that is happening. I would probably advise him explain why he did what he did, just so people have the full context. Because right now there are people that are making assumptions, there are interpretations of what happened, and right now it's not a good look, especially for someone who wants to keep that Family Guy brand. So I would definitely try to mitigate the situation. I would also advise not starting any arguments on Twitter, perhaps talking privately with Chris Rock and kind of settling that situation. But if that is not what is wanted, I would at least advise apologizing. Okay, that is the best thing that you can do. Sorry for the noise, I can't control that. So then, with Chris Rock, there may be a few things about this. He might not have known about the condition that Jada Smith is going through. I would still advise him to apologize and say something along the lines of, "I'm sorry I crossed the line. I wasn't aware that Jada Smith was suffering from a medical condition, and I realized that my joke may have been insensitive." Actually, I would not say may. I would say, I realized the joke was insensitive, and I should have stopped it there. I shouldn't have justified it. I should have just moved on and just apologized. At the same time, I would also perhaps reach out to Jada Smith and talk to her about what happened and kind of try to clear the air a little bit. Because if Jada Smith and Will Smith can come to terms with Chris Rock, that is good for everyone. And if they can make a public sort of like we're cool again kind of thing, then that will help kind of sort of let everything die down. Now, in terms of memes, it's already too late. There's going to be thousands and thousands of memes that are made about the situation. It's just how the internet works. I would not suggest trying to control the memes or trying to like react to them or comment on them. I just don't comment on the memes. Don't talk about them. Don't react in any way. Don't try to take them down. They're just going to be there. And anything that when the internet decides to react, the last thing you want to do is kind of draw more attention to it or try to kind of like milk it. You just want to kind of let it go. Everyone's going to make their jokes and poke some fun. It's going to last for a little while, and then it's probably going to die down. For the Oscars, look, the Oscars has been suffering from views for a while now. And I won't say that the situation is going to probably increase the Oscars views more so than if it didn't happen. But that's not condoning this situation, because obviously this is a bad look for Smith, and it's also kind of a bad look for Rock as well. Overall, I think the situation isn't really going to affect either of them. But if it does, I would try to let the situation die down. What I would suggest, honestly, is for both of them to kind of go into sort of radio silent mode and let everyone get their jokes out of the way and then proceed to just move on after apologizing, that is. I would apologize, kind of go radio silent, let the situation die down, don't respond to anything, don't make an interview, don't do anything. And then just move on. That is the biggest advice, public relations wise, that I would give to Chris Rock or Will Smith. Just let the situation die down and it'll all go away in a natural manner. Now, in terms of what we can learn from Will Smith and Chris Rock, is that there is definitely personal reputation management at work. Personal reputation management is the idea that anything that you say, do on the internet kind of build your reputation online. So when you build your reputation, there's going to be a public outlook on your character. Because Will Smith is known as being this kind of stoic guy who doesn't really react and he's a comedian, people are going to kind of be like shocked that he would do this. And people are going to say that he's like losing it, he overreacted, it's surprising. And especially since it happened on a live television where families are watching, that's not a great situation to be in. For Chris Rock, he's also a comedian and he's also kind of a family man. So they both have very similar reputations, and so it kind of really depends on how the public reacts. In terms of Chris Rock, he has kind of done this kind of thing in the past as well, which kind of builds this idea that he is this kind of guy. Now, as comedians, I would say that what Chris Rock did during the show was a good reaction to what happened. He played it off and he moved on, which is exactly what I would have advised. If he had given a reaction, it would have only made the situation worse and probably would have escalated even further. So just moving on and making light of it is a good move. In terms of what to do afterwards, now that's a little bit different. Now, the reason why we're in this situation in the first place is because of personal reputation management. And also a little bit of brand management. And also a little bit of, in this particular situation, it's kind of about knowing your audience. Comedians can push the limits, but it's important to know where that limit is. Even though jokes are often well received, there is a time and a place for certain jokes. And there's also some unspoken rules about comedy in general. For example, if Chris Rock had knowledge of Jada Smith's condition, it is definitely not a good place to make a joke about the condition on a live television at the expense without her knowledge. If both parties are involved with the joke, it can come off as a bit more like inside joke, and it might not have had the reaction that it did. But because the person who was at the expense of the joke wasn't in on the joke, it makes the situation a lot more dicey. I'm not saying that you can't make jokes, but I am saying that there is kind of a time and a place, and live on television is probably not it. Now, in terms of what we can learn from this, it's that the internet will always react to anything that happens on live television that is remotely interesting. And that's exactly what happened. As soon as it happened, everything broke. Like there was breaking news. Every outlet kind of jumped on it, and every person jumped on it too, including me. And what we can learn from this is that when something like this happens, it is definitely a perfect way, it's a perfect time to kind of jump in and kind of give your piece on everything. Because let's be honest, everyone is looking up Will Smith versus Chris Rock, and they will probably for the next month, maybe even a year. So jumping on the wagon of making a video on this is definitely really good PR, and I would definitely recommend doing so, because this is a situation where you can't really lose by reacting to it, and it also is going to kind of like fester and like kind of everyone is going to be interested for at least the next 2 months. So it's definitely a perfect opportunity to kind of get some attention if you really want it. That's honestly, if I'm being honest, that's probably why that I'm making this video, because I know for sure that this is a great PR opportunity. I'm just being honest. It is a really good PR opportunity. And when something like this happens, it's always kind of good to jump on it. Now, I will say that there are things you might want to avoid when you do make content off of an event that happens. You want to first assess the situation. You want to make sure that you know the full context, and then kind of give your piece on it, whether it's making jokes of it or kind of like reacting to it or whatever you want to do. You generally want to know the full scope, because it depends on what the situation actually is, and sometimes these situations can be a lot more sensitive than they may seem, and so then it might not be a good idea to actually like make a move on it. But in terms of public relations, I don't think either Will Smith or Chris Rock will suffer too much from this. We'll see. It really depends on what happens next, the reactions that happen next, who does what, and whether or not directors or companies will have any issues with Will Smith. It really depends on what. It really depends. I can't really say whether or not Will Smith will be affected by this or whether Chris Rock will be affected either. I suspect that by June, it'll probably be fine. But that's just a little bit on what I think of the situation in terms of public relations. Comment down below what you think of the situation. Leave a like on this video and subscribe for more content, especially with situations like this where I will give the best knowledge that I can when it comes to public relations. And maybe we'll do more of this where I kind of comment on what you should do in these types of situations, so you can know for the future that maybe slapping someone across the face on live television isn't exactly the greatest move, but it is definitely a good PR stunt, and it definitely got people watching the Oscars, so it kind of worked as well. But you do want to make sure that outside of the event, it doesn't affect your job or career too much. So I will say, even though it's great PR, you probably do want to do some mitigating so that it doesn't blow up and become even worse. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!